Good evening, and welcome to the regular meeting of the Kernersville Board of Aldermen. Today is Thursday, November 6th, and we're glad you could join us here this evening. Alderman J.R. Gorham is not here this evening. He is speaking at a fundraiser for a charity many of us are very familiar with, the Haston charitable organization that does medical missions that Pastor Pete Kunkel is associated with. So typically our meetings are Tuesday, and Alderman Gorham agreed to speak at that fundraiser, not realizing it was the week of the election and the meeting date had moved to Thursday. So we have a quorum, so we are all right for going, but I just wanted to let you know he sends his regrets for not being able to be here tonight. So we'll begin with an invocation, and we have Pastor Chris Booth of the Crossing Church.
Let us pray. Gracious Heavenly Father, we thank you for this evening. We thank you for the opportunity we have to assemble. Lord, I just want to thank you for us being in a place, a group of leaders who prioritize coming to you and asking for wisdom and discernment when it comes to making decisions for our town. We're grateful, Lord, that we seek a higher power and someone who can help guide and lead and direct our thoughts. Lord, we thank you for our elections. We thank you for the ability we have in this country to choose our leaders. And Lord, I pray that we would all seek your face, that we would seek your guidance in all the things we do and say. But I specifically tonight, Lord, want to pray for those aldermen, our leaders, our mayor, all our community leaders. Lord, I pray, Lord, that you would bless them, that you would keep them safe, that, Lord, again, that you would pour out your wisdom and discernment upon them. And Lord, bless our town. We pray this in Christ's name. Amen.
Amen. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. You may be seated. So one of the great honors I have as mayor is to present proclamations recognizing accomplishments, important people in our community, important causes, and important occasions. And so I have tonight a proclamation to present to the Chamber of Commerce, and Chris Comer of the Chamber of Commerce is going to accept this proclamation for Small Business Saturday, an observance that the town of Kernersville has participated in for many years. Ms. Comer, could you come forward? The town of Kernersville celebrates our local small businesses and the contributions they make to our local economy and community. There are millions of small businesses in the United States, and they are a major employer. 68 cents of every dollar spent at a small business in the U.S. stays in the local community. U.S. consumers spent approximately $22 billion at small, independently owned retailers or restaurants on Small Business Saturday 2024. And we appreciate the role of small businesses and the importance they play in our community. So it is my honor as mayor of the town of Kernersville to proclaim November 29th as Small Business Saturday in the town of Kernersville, and to present this proclamation to you, Chris, for the Chamber of Commerce, and in appreciation of your efforts to support small businesses in our community. Thank you, Chris.
Thank you very much. I do encourage everyone to shop the Saturday after Thanksgiving and every day of the year in Kernersville. If Kernersville doesn't have it, you don't need it. So hang out in Kernersville and think Kernersville first to shop.
Thank you, Chris. You can. All right. We will now move on. My mic okay? Okay. It was a little bent, so I was trying to fix it. I wondered if I had lost the sound. All right. So we will move on now to the rest of the agenda. The first items on our agenda are public hearings, and we do have several public hearings on our agenda this evening. We have a procedure and policy for our public hearings that we adopted December 5th, 2023. And at the organizational meeting, after every election, we adopt these rules of procedure, including the public hearing policy. When an agenda item is denoted as a public hearing, persons attending shall be permitted to address the Board of Aldermen regarding the item under consideration. Those speaking in favor, speaking first, and those against, speaking second. Proponents and opponents shall each be given 20 minutes of time to speak and may choose to allow one speaker to utilize that time or choose to allocate that time among different speakers. In the event that either proponents or opponents have not designated a speaker or speakers to represent that view, the mayor shall divide the 20 minutes by the number of speakers wishing to address the Board of Aldermen, and each such speaker shall be allowed that given time within which to express his or her comments, ideas, and concerns. After the opponents speak, the mayor will allow the proponents 5 minutes for rebuttal. If the proponents choose to exercise this option, the opponents will also have 5 minutes for rebuttal. In the event that the proponents do not present a rebuttal, then the opponents shall be given no further time to speak. So our first public hearing is on an annexation. Voluntary contiguous annexation petition by Beverly Lynn Parnell and Sandy Ray Gann Sr. for property located at 0 Watkins Ford Road. Following that, we'll have a combined public hearing on items B and C. Ms. Garner, if you could give us some information about these proposed plans.
Yes, ma'am. The annexation piece is just for about 2/10 of an acre that is needed for the construction on the site plan. So it was identified as part of the review of the site plan that it would be needed in order to construct part of the development. And so they have proposed annexation. They have, I think, purchased that property and then proposed annexation for that. The site that they are rezoning is already in the town limits, so this is just an additional small piece. The first, the land use plan amendments, this is item B on the agenda, KDP 74. Are you ready for me to present that?
Yes, please.
The land use plan amendment is from low density residential to medium density residential for all the parcels listed and that are shown in the red. This is related to the rezoning case, K635A1, which is item C on the agenda and will be presented next. The land use plan designation is proposed to be medium density residential at 0 to 7 units per acre, providing opportunities for moderate priced housing, but it also allows for multiple different types of housing in a way that low density definition does not. The site proposal, the density is 2.9 units per acre, and the proposed rezoning district in this case is RM5 conditional, which is primarily intended to accommodate low-density, pedestrian-oriented sites and communities containing duplexes, twin homes, multifamily and townhouse residential buildings with 3, 4, or 5 units and similar residential units at a maximum overall density of 5 units per acre. So it's still kind of on that bubble between low density and medium density, but the zoning would be the controlling factor if approved. Staff's analysis on KDP 74 is that the increased economic development in our region has increased the demand for housing everywhere. We've got a lot of demographic shifts going on where there's a change in age and lifestyle preferences, which has changed the demand for different types of housing. The completion of the NC 74 and Winston-Salem Beltway is anticipated to increase development in southeast Forsyth County, particularly once that connection is fully made. And it is consistent with existing development. So medium density residential designation encourages similar housing types and uses that are existing or planned already in this area of Kernersville. This was heard at the August Planning Board meeting. Planning Board and staff both recommend approval of the ordinance as submitted to amend the land use plan by changing all of the parcel numbers applicable to this case from low density residential to medium density residential in the land use plan. All those members were present and voted in favor at Planning Board. Any questions on this before the rezoning?
Do the board members have any questions? If you could please continue.
The rezoning case 635A1 is a proposed rezoning from residential single-family 12 special, that was our old conditional designation, and it was a PRD. So this one had a lot going on as a planned residential development, but we're also rezoning from Forsyth County agricultural, which is that piece that is under consideration for annexation. All of these are proposed to go to the residential multifamily 5 conditional. They're proposing 2 uses, residential building single family and residential building townhouse. So if approved, the site plan and the controlling ordinance would prevent anything else other than residential building single family and residential building townhouse without further review by the board. They're proposing 44 townhome units and 236 single family detached units. So that's one house on one lot for a total of 280 units. It's 2.9 units per acre. Surrounding zoning is Town of Kernersville RS12S PRD. That PRD used to cover the entire purple area and stretched all the way from High Point Road to Hedgecock Road. They're proposing just to rezone a portion of that previous approval. To the east is more RS12 PRD and Forsyth County Agricultural, and then south and west is Forsyth County Agricultural, and then a residential multifamily 8 units per acre special. That's the salmon color along Union Cross Road, just to the west of this site. The 2 uses proposed residential building single family is defined as a residential building which contains 1 dwelling unit and occupies its own zoning lot. This term includes modular housing. And residential building townhouse, a residential building which contains 3 or more dwelling units. Each unit occupies 1 zoning lot. In 2005, the rezoning was approved by the town from agricultural to RS12 special planned residential development for 192 acres. There were 459 lots proposed in total, and the densities were 2.2 and 2.4 units per acre with the housing options that were proposed at that time. It was also a mixed neighborhood in terms of the housing stock that was proposed. The original rezoning, as I mentioned, went all the way to Hedgecock Road, so this is a smaller piece than that original 2005 approval. The conditional use district site plan becomes the plan for development if approved, so only 280 units, and only 444 of them could be townhomes and 236 could be single-family detached. That's a density of 2.9 units per acre. Access is proposed from High Point Road and Woodway Drive through the Weatherstone neighborhood. And NCDOT will require road widening with a turn lane on High Point Road. On the stormwater and watershed front, there are 5 wet ponds that are proposed to treat the stormwater discharge. The detailed design for these are provided later at civil construction plans if this rezoning is approved, and the total built upon area is 30.47%. There are no mapped floodplains impacted by this development. Sidewalks will be provided throughout the development, and there's a mulch trail to the existing pond on the site that's proposed. They're also proposing a community pool, a playground, and a clubhouse. This is the site plan. So High Point Road is on the bottom left corner, and then Woodway Drive is in the top left corner. And so it shows the townhomes kind of in the middle of that development. The green area is the required landscape buffer yards to the adjacent zoning. The ITE trip generation manual classifies the proposed use as residential detached dwelling and multifamily housing low-rise development. So this is an engineering manual that helps us forecast traffic based on the types of developments. So based on these units or these uses and the proposed number of units, we would anticipate that there would be about 2,500 more trips per weekday proposed at full build-out and occupancy of the development. And so the morning and evening peaks are broken down based on detached residential and then the townhouses, which are the multifamily housing low-rise. In the morning peak hour, it's 165.2 trips, and the PM peak hour is 236 trips. So that's over the course of the busiest hour in the evening and in the morning. And then for the multifamily, it's 24.64 in the morning and 29.48 in the evening. Part of this is why NCDOT is saying some turn lanes will be required on High Point Road. The average annual daily trip count calculated by NCDOT just east of the intersection of this development at High Point Road and Union Cross Road, NCDOT recorded that AADT of 6,900 in 2023. So High Point Road is fitting within their classification of the 5,000 to 9,000 average annual daily trips, and then Union Cross is within 20,000 to 34,000. So it seems like those seem like big numbers, but then when you look at the average annual daily trips for Union Cross Road, it's a very small number. Land use plan, as we previously discussed, currently is low-density residential and proposed to go to medium-density residential. It does provide a transitional buffer between nearby Caleb's Creek development and other low-density residential development that's coming up in southeast Forsyth County. Caleb's Creek is in the land use plan as traditional neighborhood development, which allows the commercial and the residential and other types of uses. Staff's analysis is that growth in Kernersville and Forsyth County has changed the demand for housing, and the Union Cross corridor in particular is a large job center, especially for the county. The change in population has changed the demand for housing, and the proposed development is consistent with the existing neighborhood to the east, which is Weatherstone, and other developments nearby, particularly Caleb's Creek, Planning Area 100 and 107, which are both proposed to build a combination of townhouses and single-family detached dwellings. Staff's recommendation is to approve the request for rezoning of the Unified Development Ordinance of the town by rezoning the property in case K635.A1 from RS12 Special Planned Residential Development and Forsyth County Agricultural to RM5, so Residential Multifamily Conditional. The said rezoning being consistent with the town's comprehensive plan and both reasonable and in the public interest because of the following: that it will help to increase the variety and availability of single-family homes within Kernersville, and the proposal is consistent with the land use plan as amended and our appropriate uses in the medium-density residential use classification in our land use plan. There are conditions that are presented in the staff report, the original staff report, and then there was an updated memo that came out of the planning board recommendation. At the planning board hearing, planning board recommended approval with the addition of a condition that the elevations that were presented by the applicant during the hearing be included. So the following condition was added to the recommended conditions. This was in the memo that was posted, that building elevations to be constructed shall meet the Vanguard and Genesis series for the single-family detached homes and the hydrangea and hyacinth for the townhomes as depicted in attachment B of the memo. The applicant has emailed staff earlier this week and requested a proposed revision to condition number 4 that was proposed by staff and recommended by planning board. Staff, I'm sure they will present on it tonight. We had requested or conditioned that the common recreation areas and amenity areas, including but not limited to the amenity area, sidewalks, the mulch trail for pond access, the pool, the clubhouse, and the playground, shall be substantially completed prior to the final plat for the first phase of townhomes. And they've come back and said the townhomes will be platted in the first phase of development, so we need a little bit more time than having that done prior to platting. So they proposed that all of that would be substantially completed prior to the issuance of the first certificate of occupancy for the townhomes. The state has recently adopted legislation that we are really limited in our ability to withhold certificates of occupancy. So we just want, if this is to be approved, we would propose a third change to this condition that would say that common recreation areas and amenity areas, including but not limited to the amenity area sidewalks, the mulch trail for the pond access, the pool, the clubhouse, and the playground, shall be substantially completed prior to the issuance of the first certificate of occupancy for the townhomes, or shall be subject to notices of violation, since it is squirrely about our ability to withhold that certificate of occupancy. We just want the transparency of what would be the next step if at that time of the certificate of occupancy request, those amenities were not complete. This was heard at the August Planning Board with that Kernersville Development Plan amendment, and all members present voted in favor of the rezoning. I'd be happy to answer any questions that you have.
Do the board members have any questions?
Forgive me. I want to be sure that I understand that even with the townhomes that are proposed within this rezoning request, that they will not exceed 2 stories. In other words, a downstairs and an upstairs within each townhome. Is that correct?
I believe that is what the architectural elevations show, and I believe that the applicant's presentation will go over some of what they're proposing, so I think that will be covered.
Thank you.
Did you have a question, Chris? Okay. All right, so we are going to have 2 public hearings. We'll have a public hearing solely on the annexation, and then we will have a public hearing on items B and C, a combined public hearing that would be on the development plan and the rezoning. All right, so we'll have a public hearing, item 1A on the agenda on the annexation, voluntary contiguous annexation petition by Beverly Lynn Parnell and Sandy Ray Gann Sr. for property located at 0 Watkins Ford Road and consideration of an ordinance annexing said property. I'll declare the public hearing open. Would the proponents like to speak as to the annexation?
Good evening, Madam Mayor, Aldermen. The annexation request is...
Let me stop you there. I need to have you introduce yourself with your name and your address, please.
Jason Ewing with Mungo Homes, 221 Jonestown Road, Winston-Salem.
Thank you.
The annexation request came about from staff's review of the proposed site plan. There is a pinch area as you enter the development that there was not enough area to accommodate the 50-foot right-of-way and the required buffer yard. So the property owner acquired the necessary amount of the adjacent property to allow us to meet that standard buffer yard and accommodate the 50-foot right-of-way requirement.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, anyone else speaking in favor of the annexation? Anyone else speaking in favor of the annexation? Seeing none, is there anyone who'd like to speak in opposition to the annexation? Seeing none, I'll declare the public hearing closed. Do I have a motion for the annexation? Or got a motion?
Second.
Your mic was on. Do you want to repeat it with your microphone, Bill?
Forgive me. I move we approve the proposed annexation request.
I've got a motion by Alderman Apple, second by Mayor Pro Tem Thompson. All in favor? All opposed? Mr. Hooker, did you get the vote? All right. All right, now we will have our combined public hearing. It's on item B, public hearing, Kernersville Development Plan, Curtis Swisher, agent for the town of Kernersville, because the town manager is always the person bringing any amendment to the development plan, just as a matter of practice. So Curtis Swisher, agent for the town of Kernersville, for consideration of an amendment to the Kernersville Development Plan to amend the land use plan from low-density residential to medium-density residential for properties generally located northeast of High Point Road and east of Woodway Drive, containing a total of 96.71 plus or minus acres, and being all of the pins included on the agenda and in the case. Zoning docket KDP 74. In consideration of a resolution amending the Kernersville Development Plan. Item C, which is part of this combined public hearing, is a public hearing on rezoning. Jay Wagner, agent for estate of Martin L. Gann, co-executors, Beverly Lynn Parnell and Sandy Ray Gann, senior owners, for a single-phase conditional rezoning from Kernersville RS12S PRD and Forsyth County Ag to Kernersville RM5C for properties generally located northeast of High Point Road and east of Woodway Drive, containing a total of 96.71 plus or minus acres, and being all of the pins as listed on the agenda and in the staff report. Petitioner requests approval of a conditional use site plan titled Abbott's Forest, zoning docket K635A1, in consideration of an ordinance rezoning said property. I'll declare the public hearing for B and C open. Would the proponents like to speak? And again, you'll need to introduce yourself.
Good evening, Mayor, Alderman, Jason Ewing, Mungo Homes, 221 Jonestown Road, Winston-Salem. Mr. Wagner was unable to make it this evening, and I believe you have the information up there. The first thing I would like to take a minute to address the change to condition 4 that was requested. Just a notation on that. We can't get building permits to start construction of an amenity until we've platted. So that is sort of what drove the request to change the requirement in the substantial completion of the amenities until COs versus platting of phase 1. So you'll see the presentation that you have before you, the area map, which is the next slide. Okay. We could. Just so happen to have enough paper copies for all to be able to look at. you can get it up smaller, Catherine, where it'll stay, that's fine. They've got the paper copies, and it'll go off the screen. The location, as you saw in your staff report, is off of High Point Road, adjacent to the North Carolina Leadership Academy. The next slide shows our concept plan. Our objective here with having multiple products is to build an inviting neighborhood that creates a lifestyle for its residents and foster a sense of community. We've incorporated numerous areas of open space that will be utilized for passive amenities. This concept plan shows street layouts that's consistent with the town of Kernersville standards through a combination of cul-de-sacs, curb and gutter requirements, sidewalks, and standard width requirements. Each residential unit has at least 2 unobstructed parking spaces on the individual lots in the driveway. This inclusion with the addition of any available garage space is intended to reduce the amount of on-street parking, contributing to safer pedestrian and vehicular traffic. You can see on your map the color coding where the placement of the Vanguard, the different products are on there. As you enter the site, the amenity will be on your right, and you will come into the Vanguard product. Going straight through, you'll go through the townhome product, and then the Genesis product will be on the backside of the community. Here are just some snips of the renderings, which I believe in your report you have all of the renderings that were provided at staff's request for those products. This is our Vanguard single family, and there's some specifications to the product as far as the square footage range. All of these plans have 2-car garage, some of our standards as far as how we landscape the yards with 80% sod, and we also use automatic irrigation systems as standard on our homes. This community will be maintained and managed by a homeowners association. That is to uphold the community standards from a just presentation standpoint, make sure everyone keeps their home, their lawn, as it's expected to be. The next slide is the Genesis product, and then the next slide is the townhome product. And I believe Mr. Apple asked a question about the stories. You can see on these elevations that this product is only a 2-story townhome product. This product, it's unique, and we identified this site. This is our largest townhome product with the 2-car garage, and it provides a primary bedroom on the first floor. When we did some demographic research, we saw that there was some demand for that product with the primary on the lower level. So we felt that this was a good opportunity to infuse a few of the townhome buildings in this community to provide a bridge between the Vanguard and the Genesis product. Amenities that are proposed, as mentioned in the staff report, a pool, bathhouse, fire pit. We would like to create a gathering space again to really foster a sense of community within our neighborhood. A dog park, a playground, and then an outdoor fitness area. Again, trying to foster a sense of community, allowing people to really engage in their neighborhood and be active, or as active as they would like to be. Not pictured here, but I believe it's on the site plan, is the mulch trail that leads out around the pond. And there is that mulch trail is connected between the cul-de-sacs that are on the right-hand side of the community. Here is some information on the watershed regulations and stormwater calculations. And I'll let our engineer speak to this.
If you could introduce yourself with your name and address, please.
Sure. My name is Tyler Cross, 5309 Old Forge Circle in Raleigh, 27609. I'm a professional engineer in North Carolina. So the site is located within the lower Abbott's Creek watershed, and there are some pretty stringent requirements, both set by Kernersville and NCDEQ. So there are some water quality requirements and water quantity requirements. The site has to, well, I guess I can start with kind of defining what the watershed kind of means and where those regulations come from. But as you go above what's called low density development, it's based on the amount of impervious that you're proposing. So in this watershed, if you go over 24%, then you enter high density requirements, which triggers the need to meet all those stormwater regulations. And so this development is proposing about 30% impervious. So to meet the requirements of water quality, I guess in the staff report, it was reported that there are 5 wet ponds, which will provide both water quality and water quantity regulations. For pre and post peak flow attenuation, I know a lot of people are always concerned about flooding downstream. And so in this watershed, we're required to meet the 1-year peak flow and the 10-year peak flow. And we will meet or exceed all those requirements with providing the wet ponds without reducing the peak flow so much during the 1 year that it is detrimental to the downstream stream health. So that's all I have. I'm available to answer any questions anybody might have. But,
Thank you.
yeah, thank you.
The next slide is just a brief summary of some of the site plan information. Again, summarizing 280 total units, 44 of those being townhomes. Our buffer yard requirement, where we will have a 20-foot type 2 buffer yard at the entry from High Point Road, and then that will transition into a 30-foot type 2 buffer yard around the perimeter of the property. The total site acreage is 96.71 acres, and that is a density of 2.9 units per acre, where 43.5 acres are reserved for common areas. As Tyler mentioned, the site coverage, there's a little over 30% of impervious surface. Parking required, we have provided 560 total parking spaces, and then 68 spaces provided for the amenity, which is more than twice as much that's required by your development ordinance. One item that's not in here that we do have our traffic engineer here. When we held our community information meeting earlier in the year, one attendee had a comment regarding traffic along High Point Road. It was not a requirement of your application, but we went ahead and requested a traffic impact analysis just to make sure we saw all the data on that. So we do have our traffic engineer here if anyone has any questions on the traffic along High Point Road or Union Cross. Regarding the land use plan, goals and objectives, that really just kind of sums up what was already in the staff report about our project density fitting into the medium density residential land use designation, and how that change in designation allows for a variety of single family homes, which we feel we've provided that with the 3 different products that we're proposing. And then the RM5 conditional zoning district. This is what we ended up with after a number of conversations with staff. And this is primarily because of the townhomes. And we've had instances before where you try to zone one section of a community for multifamily and another section for single family. And if your survey and meets and bounds are just a little bit off, then you've got to go back through the zoning process to have those corrected. So after conversations with staff, we felt that doing RM5 conditional, where the density of the site is limited based on the approved site plan, would be the best path to take. Yeah. And that's just a little bit about Mungo Homes. So happy to answer any questions. And again, we have our traffic engineer, project engineer here. If there's any questions.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else who'd like to speak in favor of this development? All right, seeing none, I have one person signed up to speak in opposition. I'll recognize Ms. Sabanas. And again, if you could introduce yourself and your address.
Lord, I hope I don't take 20 minutes. My name is Sarah Jane Sabanis. I am a resident of Kernersville, 104 McCoy Road, and I would like to speak in opposition of this proposed development, mainly because of who the developer is. You guys might have remembered almost 2 years ago, I spoke against a Sugart Homes development, which is also the same owner of Mungo Homes as well. And as the folks mentioned from Mungo Homes, there is a watershed that this is going to be built on. And in September of 2025, Clayton Homes, which owns Mungo Homes, settled a lawsuit in Durham over alleged Clean Water Act violations. They had to improve erosion controls, pay $50,000 in fines, and contribute $270 to a land conservancy to protect 62 acres of land because the development site was discharging sediment into nearby creeks. In 2023, Clayton Properties was fined by the Alabama Department of Environmental Management because of sediment issues. And I know that their plan has a list for 5 wet ponds. Our own town engineer stated in a memo on August 5th, 2025, that wet ponds have very little to no runoff volume reduction capability, since the wet pond functions as a basin that generally discharges a volume equivalent to the entire inflow runoff volume. So that means that when we have these big rains, as we've all been experiencing over the past couple of years, there's still going to be a lot of runoff, and this could negatively impact the watershed. I do agree with the Community Development Department's assessment that we have a shortage in single-family housing, but I don't believe that introducing mixed density housing in an area that's predominantly surrounded by agricultural and, well, I believe RS-12, I don't believe that this is the option for us. We need to be strategic in our development, and I vehemently oppose this development. Thank you.
Is there anyone else who'd like to speak in opposition? All right, so now it's time for the rebuttal if you'd like to give one, but you have the option of not.
I'll just respond real quick about the comments regarding the company. We have Mungo has 10 markets throughout the Southeast, and then we are owned by Clayton Properties Group, which has many other market areas. Here in the Triad, we have 11 active communities. We have 6 that are under development right now, and you can look up our history, and we don't have any violations, any issues with projects we've had here in the Triad. The Triad market is managed by our Triad market staff, so I can't speak to any other markets, but just from the Triad market, we have a clean history of upholding what the regulations are regarding erosion control standards. And our engineer, Tyler, will speak to the wet pond.
Let's take my name again.
Yes, please.
Tyler Cross, 5309 Old Forge Circle in Raleigh, 27609. She spoke on the classification of wet ponds and how they function in terms of runoff volume treatment. And she's absolutely right in that regard, that in North Carolina, there's 2 ways that you can provide treatment and meet the requirements in a water supply watershed. And they are through runoff volume match and runoff treatment. And runoff volume match has to do with the ability to take that volume that is increased and infiltrate it into the ground. And that prevents it from kind of becoming a surface runoff down to the downstream. And in a lot of North Carolina, especially in this area, with silty soils and things like that, infiltration rates can be very low, and it's pretty difficult to meet that with wet ponds. And for this development, we are going to meet the requirements for the watershed with runoff treatment match, and that is where the wet pond comes in, where it doesn't actually reduce the overall volume that's generated from the runoff on the site. But because it is a wet pond, there are studies done that the biggest helpfulness that wet ponds provide is that they provide sedimentation removal. And so when a lot of runoff is generated on a site and brings with it silts and sediments and that kind of thing, the biggest thing that we like to remove is nitrogen and phosphorus, and that's a lot of stuff that's in the soils, in the fertilizer that people use for their lawns. And wet ponds handle that very well, but because they don't handle the volume reduction, to her point, which is absolutely valid, they handle that by taking all that water and dewatering it over an extended period of time instead of allowing all that water to come in and release really fast to the downstream watershed. And so the requirement is that you have to dewater it between 2 and 5 days, which takes a storm over 24 hours and extends that so that there's a slow release of water over the next 2 to 5 days. And so while she's absolutely correct that the volume will not go down, the wet ponds provide that runoff treatment match, and that's what we'll be providing in order to meet the requirements on this site. So if anybody has any questions, I'm happy to answer more on that, but
Thank you.
thank you.
All right, Ms. Vanis, did you have a counter rebuttal? All right, so she's waiving the counter rebuttal. All right, we've had the proponents, opponents, and a rebuttal. Counter rebuttal is waived, so this public hearing, I will now declare it closed. Is there discussion by the board?
I got a couple questions.
Go ahead.
So my first would be for Munga Homes.
And Jason, if you can come
Jason,
forward.
please.
But please limit your response to answering his question.
And I may have one for Catherine as well. On your townhouse driveways, do you know what the distance is from the backside of the sidewalk to the front of the garage? And I guess the reason I'm asking is we've had problems in the past where the driveways were too short and somebody would park in the driveway and they couldn't even get to the garage before they're blocking the sidewalk, and then the pedestrians couldn't even walk on the sidewalk without having to walk around the car.
Yep, so I believe with the 20-foot setbacks is, just clarification, Tyler, that 20-foot setback is to the right-of-way, which would be prior to the sidewalk. So about 20 foot from.
So it's enough for a car to get out of the way of the sidewalks. We want to block that.
Absolutely.
Okay. And the streets, you're going to have an HOA, but the streets are going to be given back. I mean, they're going to be public streets, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. So the streets have all been designed so that our fire trucks will not have a problem getting around the neighborhood in emergencies.
Yes, sir.
Okay. I think that's all I've got. Thank you for you.
Thank you.
Do we see this as a burden, Curtis, on our police and fire services, trash pickup?
No, I mean, no, we're already in that area with the other developments in Caleb's Creek. At some point in time, we will need to add another garbage route probably within the next year or so.
Okay.
But that's coming anyway. With just as soon as the development in Caleb's Creek continues to build out. So this is just part of it. I mean, we've already, because this development's been approved before, back in 2005, so we factored that into already our future plans for garbage pickup. As you know, fire is already at Beasley's Crossroads, and then police, same as garbage. At some point in time, we know it's coming that we'll have to have probably another 3 officers, not just for this area, but for the entire Union Cross area.
Okay. All right. Thanks.
Thank you. All right, any other questions? Go ahead, Mr. Farrow.
I reckon this would be for, what was your first name, Jay? Jason. Have y'all figured out the impact on the school system in that area with this many units?
I don't think we've run any impact analysis on the schools. I believe.
Why not?
The county usually provides that.
Mr. Barra, we provide the information to the school system in our development review committee process. So they receive every staff or every site plan that's coming through for rezoning for their forecasting. So they're aware of it.
I know the question was, what would the impact be? How many students do you anticipate? Because right now, our school system's a mess. $40 million in the hole. And is this supposed to be for young folks, old folks? Who's your market?
Our target demographic is a mix, as stated, with the townhome product being a primary bedroom on the main floor and a number of ranch plan options. We see a broad mix of families, 55 and up, empty nesters, targeting this neighborhood. And again, with the 3 different products, it'll provide for a wide price range. So it'll create affordability and also destination for those looking for nicer homes in a well amenitized community.
What's your price range going to be?
It's hard to say with the market the way it is right now, and we're probably 2 years away from starting vertical construction with approvals and whatnot. If we were active on the site right now, building, our price range for all 3 products, we'd probably start in the low to mid 300s for the Genesis, and then escalate up to the low to mid 400s for the Vanguard product, and the townhomes falling sort of in between there.
Thank you. That's all the questions I got.
Thank you.
Madam Mayor, I have one question,
Okay,
please.
go ahead, for Mr. Ewing.
We go over this repeatedly, but just for the sake of everyone being on the same page, when you're computing and estimating the number of units per acre, the math does not include, or does it include in the denominator, the common area, the amenities, and so forth?
Yes, so that 2.9 units to the acre takes into account the total site acreage of, I think, 96.71.
Okay.
So just the 280 units divided by 96.71
Okay,
yields
that's
the
what I wanted to
2.9.
be sure we understood. So actually, the developed turf, the footprint of the development, would be a little more dense than that, but that's not the way that it's traditionally computed.
That's correct.
Is that correct?
That's correct. And I believe that we have close to 46% that's open space. That would be open space and common elements in the community.
That's what I remember from here. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, does the board have further questions? All right, we'll need to have a discussion and 2 motions. The first motion would be on item B, the resolution amending the Kernersville Development Plan, zoning docket KDP 74. And then we'll do a second vote on item C, which is the public hearing, the rezoning. So first we've already voted on the annexation. So let's now take up item B, the Kernersville Development Plan. Is there any further discussion, or do I have a motion?
Madam Mayor, just to get it on the table, I would move that we approve the amendment to the Kernersville Development Plan for KDP 74 on the zoning docket per the recommendations and with the conditions recommended by staff.
Okay, I have a motion by Alderman Apple for the motion as recommended by staff, which you see on the screen.
I second.
Got a motion, a second. All in favor? All opposed? Mr. Hooker, did you get that? And do you have the ordinance from the screen, or do I need to read it? Okay. All right, now we will take up item C, which is public hearing on the rezoning. Any further discussion, or do I have a motion?
Madam Mayor, for the same reason, then I would offer a motion that we adopt zoning docket K-635.A1 to issue a single-phase conditional rezoning from Kernersville RS-12S PRD family, special planned residential development district, and Forsyth County AG to Kernersville RM-5-C residential multifamily conditional per the recommendation of staff and with the recommended conditions imposed.
And does your motion include all the proposed changes by staff as presented, including the
Including the
language
addition.
of the issuance of the first CO shall be subject to notices of violation?
Yes, ma'am, including the staff recommendation revision.
And the addition of the elevations?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Catherine, is there anything we've missed? All right. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mayor Pro Tem Thompson. All in favor? All opposed? Keith, did you get that split vote?
Yes.
All right. Is there anything further on this item, Mr. Swisher? All right, we will then move on to item D. It is a public hearing on a text amendment. Curtis Swisher, agent for the town of Kernersville, requesting a text amendment to Article 11 of the UDO regarding the definition of convenience store, zoning docket KT 282.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. At the September 8th Planning Board, staff informed the Planning Board that a text amendment would be proposed at the following meeting to update the definition of convenience store. So the UDO defines convenience store as follows. Any retail establishment offering for sale any combination of gasoline, diesel fuel, kerosene, automotive products, prepackaged food products, household items, and/or other goods commonly associated with the same and having a gross floor area of less than 5,000 square feet. We recently reviewed a new convenience store at Weldon called Dash Inn, but the sheets and Quality Mart approvals and layouts review of that, staff determined that the current UDO definition does require revision. So the revision includes the following changes. We're adding car wash to the list of commonly associated components of a convenience store. We're removing prepackaged as a requirement for food products and removing the floor area restriction. So the proposed definition now reads, convenience store, any retail establishment offering for sale any combination of gasoline, diesel fuel, kerosene, car wash, automotive products, food products, household items, and/or other goods commonly associated with the same. Staff finds that the revision of convenience store is required in order to accommodate both the form and function of modern convenience stores as they're being constructed. And with the limitation on square footage, that may have made sense at one point. It's no longer compatible with the use today because of the variety of amenities that are offered. Like if you think of Sheets and they've got the hot food that's prepared, they're becoming more like quasi-restaurants. So we wanted to update remove the threshold to be applicable to current designs. This was heard at last month's Planning Board meeting in October. Planning Board and staff recommend approval of the ordinance as attached to your staff report. Those members who were present all voted in favor.
Thank you, Catherine. All right, this is a public hearing. I'll declare the public hearing open. Is there anyone here to speak in favor? Seeing no one here to speak in favor of the text amendment, I'll ask, is there anyone here to speak in opposition to the text amendment? Seeing none, I'll declare the public hearing closed.
Madam Mayor, this is the fried chicken amendment, is that correct?
I believe so.
Okay.
And the Clean Car Amendment.
Madam Mayor, I'd make a motion that we approve the planning board and staff recommendation to KT-282 as attached to the staff report.
Okay, I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'd second that.
Second by Alderman Barrow. All in favor? It's unanimous. All right, this brings us to the public session. Our first item is speakers from the floor. Is there anyone who'd like to address the board on a matter not otherwise included on the agenda? All right, seeing none, I will move on then to item B, discussion and consideration of a resolution authorizing the purchase of real property located at 569 Smith Edwards Road. And I believe that B, C, and D are all related. Is that correct, Mr. Swisher?
That is correct.
Okay, then C is consideration of an ordinance for Budget Amendment 5 for fiscal year 2025-26. And D is consideration of a resolution declaring a notice of intent to reimburse for the purchase of real property. Mr. Swisher?
Madam Mayor and Board, you have in your packet the resolution to purchase real property located at 569 Smith Edwards Road. It is currently a single-family residence on 2.88 acres. It sits right beside of the Kernersville Mountain Bike Park. We were contacted by the individual to see if the town had any interest in purchasing this property. As I talked to you all in closed session about this, there is an interest in this property. The town, if purchased and if approved, it would be added to the mountain bike park. Depending on, we could use the house for a changing station and then also the land behind it for overflow parking. As you all are aware, it's pretty tight on parking out there. There have been some new spaces created, but on a Saturday or Sunday when it's a nice day, still run out of parking. So this would be an added benefit to that mountain bike park that now gets a lot of use, not just folks in Kernersville, but folks from Winston-Salem and Greensboro as well.
Okay, is there any discussion?
I would like to add that, I know you said overflow parking, but there's a lot of cars that go down there, and I think this would be a great addition to the small amount of parking that's there. My opinion is if we don't get this property now, we won't have it, and we're going to be dealing with 14 parking spaces in a cul-de-sac for however long the bike park is going to be there. So I feel like this would be a great addition to the bike park, and it's well needed since it's right beside the road that leads down to the park itself. I'd make a motion to approve.
Got a motion by Mayor Pro Tem Thompson,
Second.
second by Alderman Barrow. All in favor? It's unanimous. All right, item C, Mr. Swisher.
C is the budget amendment, moving the money from the general fund to the line item necessary for that purchase.
Okay, do I have a motion? Got a motion for approval by Mayor Pro Tem Thompson, second by Alderman Apple. All in favor? It's unanimous. Mr. Clerk, did you get the motion and the second? All right. Item D, Mr. Swisher.
D is just the resolution if the town decides to go in and borrow the money and finance the house. This is the intent to reimburse ourselves for that purchase.
All right, do I have a motion?
So moved.
Got a motion by Mayor Pro Tem Thompson,
Second.
second by Alderman Barrow. All in favor? It's unanimous. I would like to make a note at this point in time. If you are not familiar with the history of the mountain bike park, there is kind of a Facebook page and website for it. It is maintained and operated by volunteers, and it is built on land that was slated to have been a landfill for the town of Kernersville. So it's an awesome park. It's a little bit of a high adventure type of place, and the amenities inside were built by people who love riding mountain bikes. And there is an Eagle Scout, Blaine Thompson, who is the one who changed the parking lot recently from a single road in and out and undefined parking spaces on this cul-de-sac to create 14 defined parking spaces and a road that can accommodate two-way traffic. And I think Mayor Pro Tem Thompson was out there a lot because Blaine is his son. So they certainly observed the cars going in and out of that area. And Chris, I think this is an excellent idea, and I can't wait to see how the addition of this property contributes to the use and enjoyment of that park. And Mr. Swisher, thank you for negotiating this availability of this property for our decision-making tonight.
Thank you.
All right, any other comments? All right, that brings us to the consent agenda. These matters are considered to be routine by the Board of Aldermen and will be enacted by one motion with no separate discussion unless a board member or citizen so requests, in which event the matter will be removed from the consent agenda and considered under the following item. A, approval of minutes for the August 5th closed session. B, approval of minutes for the September 24th closed session. C, approval of minutes for the September 24th regular meeting. D, approval of placeholder minutes for the October 8th meeting. E, consideration of a lease agreement with Kernersville Little Theater. F, adoption of the 2026 Board of Aldermen meeting schedule. Is there anyone who'd like to see any of the items removed from the consent agenda who is an alderman? Y'all okay with them? All right, any citizens in attendance or staff members? All right, do I have a motion to adopt the consent agenda?
Motion to approve.
Got a motion to approve by Mayor Pro Tem Thompson. Second by Alderman Apple. All in favor? It's unanimous. All right, we are now to the town manager's report. Mr. Swisher.
Madam Mayor, I have two items. The first item is a nomination to fill a planning board seat and then a Board of Adjustment seat. The nominations committee met today and made a recommendation appointing Russ Parmalee to the planning board. He will be moving up from the Board of Adjustment, and then appointment of Michael Woods as a regular member to the Board of Adjustment, moving from an alternate member status.
Okay, any discussion, or do I have a motion to approve? Got a motion to approve by Alderman Apple, second by Alderman Barrow. All in favor? It's unanimous.
And the second item is a discussion and consideration of naming the dog park at Ivy Redmond Sports Complex in memory of Alderman Joe Penix. As many of you are aware, Alderman Penix was a regular visitor to the dog park at least 3 or 4 times a week. He was also the driving force behind the creation of that dog park. And Joe, I think it would be appropriate to name that in memory of Alderman Penix.
All right, do I have a motion?
So moved.
Got a motion by Mayor Pro Tem Thompson, second by Alderman Barrow. All in favor? It's unanimous.
And I do not have anything else, Madam Mayor.
All right, thank you. Mr. Powell, have you got anything to present to us tonight?
I do not have any report, but we do have need for a closed session.
Okay, thank you. All right, matters to be presented by the mayor and Board of Aldermen. Mr. Thompson.
Well, I have nothing, thank you.
Thank you. And thank you for operating the timer this evening.
Oh, thank you. It's been a while. I think it worked out okay.
Yeah, it did. Mr. Apple.
No, ma'am, I don't. I guess I would just like to say to those in the audience and those watching, thank you. Whatever your decisions were in the election we just got through, thank you for voting and participating in your town government. And we appreciate your doing that. We honor and respect your right to do that. And I'm very proud that in this country we all enjoy that right. So thank you for exercising and not sitting on that right. Several of you we saw at the polls as we shook hands as you were there. And we thank all of you for voicing your preferences. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Apple. Mr. Barrow.
I don't have anything tonight, thank you.
Thank you.
Can I add to Bill's statement, please?
Yeah, go ahead.
I just want to welcome Sarah Sabonis and Randy Ingram, our new to come board members.
Thank you. All right. I think we have a closed session.
Great. You look-
Yeah, of course.
I hereby make a motion pursuant to North Carolina General Statute 143-318, .11A3, to enter into closed session and consult with an attorney employed or retained by the public body in order to preserve the attorney-client privilege between the attorney and the public body, which privilege is hereby acknowledged and pursuant to North Carolina General Statute 143-318.11A6, to consider the qualifications, competence, performance, character, fitness, conditions of appointment, or conditions of initial employment of an individual public officer or employee or prospective public officer or employee, or to hear or investigate a complaint, charge, or grievance by or against an individual public officer or employee.
Okay, do I have a second? A second by Alderman Barrow. All in favor? It's unanimous. We're now in closed session. Good evening and welcome back to the regular meeting of the Kernersville Board of Aldermen. Thank you for joining us this evening. Is there any further business before the board this evening? Seeing none, do I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Got a motion by Mayor Pro Tem Thompson, second by Alderman Barrow. All in favor? This meeting is now adjourned.